What's good, everyone? Welcome to my Python tutorial session. We are going to do Python installation on Windows today. And just a quick side note before we jump into things. Some of the things I will probably cover today, or some of the things I will cover today, may seem a little rudimentary to some of you, but I encourage everyone to watch the entire video, and for two reasons. First, you may learn something, you never know. And second, you may actually be able to teach us something. So if there's something you want to add to what I've done for today's session, feel free to enter that in the comment section below. We may actually learn something from some of you guys. So I would encourage you to watch the entire video. Anyway, let's jump right into it. So this is a beginner's tutorial. So I want to assume two things. I want to assume that you have no Python installed on your Windows machine. I am using a Windows 10 machine. I'm going to assume you don't have any Python installed on your machine, or you have a version of Python installed on your machine. So we're going to look at the two scenarios, because sometimes you may have installed an application that automatically installs Python, or you had Python on the machine that you purchased. So we're going to look at a couple of scenarios. So let me start with just having a look at your machine to see what you actually have. So a couple of ways to do that. We can easily either go to the bottom left, and we can just, if you type in add, it should bring up the add or remove programs. You click on that, and it should pop up the apps and features. And then right in the middle, you should just click on the search box and type in Python. And as you can see, for me, it brought up a few things. I have Python 3.7 and 8 installed on here. If you don't have any Python installed, you shouldn't see anything here. So let's click out of that. Another quick way of doing this is if you type in CMD in the search box again and click on the command prompt, that would also bring up our command prompt box. Let me make this slightly bigger. And here you can just type in where Python. Enter. As you can see again, I have two Python versions installed on my machine, so it's popped up to result set for me. So I have two things, and then once I install the third one, we'll take another look at this. So once you've done those two checks to see if you have something installed or not, it really doesn't matter. It just gives me an idea where you are. We can kind of like cancel this, and then just go straight to python.org, which is where you will get the downloads from, just python.org. And then just go straight to the download section. And from the download section, you go to Python 3.9.1. So as of this video, this is the latest version, is 3.1. And if you go slightly down, you can see it says note that Python 3.9 plus cannot be used on Windows 7 or earlier. So if you don't have Windows 10, you can still install Python. You just can't do 3.9.1. But if you go further down, you see view the full list of downloads, and click on that and just scroll down. You'll see a bunch of downloads here for other versions, I guess earlier versions. I would suggest not to go lower than 3.7. So install anything 3.7 and up. I guess you could do 3.5 as well, but just to be safe, I would do 3.7. Anyway, so let's go back to downloads. If you're doing 3.91, just click on this download on this button, and it should download the .exe file for you, and you should see the download on the bottom left. I've already downloaded mine, So we're going to go to the download section. Oops, excuse me. And then you should see something similar to this. And that's the executable file. That's what we're going to use to download. So if you double click on this, and it should bring up this box. So you have this install now section, and you have the customize installation section. And then if you go further down, you see the add Python 3.90 path. Now, if you have a fresh laptop and you've checked and there's absolutely nothing on your laptop, I will go ahead and click on that and to add this to your path, just to make things a lot easier. Now, if you have multiple versions like I have, on click, because I'm going to show you a couple of things later on. Uncheck that, and then, but everybody goes to the same install now. And under that, you see Python includes idle and pip. And idle is an integrated development and learning environment. It's written completely in Python, and it comes as a default installation when you install Python. And pip is the package management software, also written in Python, and it allows you to install and manage, Python software packages. So if you click on this, you can see the setup progress as it installs. Okay, now the setup is successful. Just close the window. And quick way to check, to just make sure it's installed properly. It's again, if you type in CMD, you go to the right, click on the command prompts. Again, I'll make this bigger for everybody to see. Now remember, I have multiple versions of Python on my machine. Now, if you only have the 3.91 version installed, if you type in Python and enter, you're going to see a Python 3.91 here. I'm assuming you've also checked the add to a path, because if you don't, you won't see anything. So here I have a Python 3.8 because when I did the Where Python, it showed me 2 versions. This is the defaults. Now, if you want to come out of this, you do a Control Z or Z and enter. That will bring you out of this one. So for me, like I said, so for if this is a completely fresh installation for you guys, your installation is done, and I'll go through a couple of other things. But if you have multiple versions on your machine, now let's discuss what's going on here. Now, like I said, for me, I had two versions, 3.8 and 3.7. And if I do a path, if I type path, you can see at the top section here, I've got the 3.8 description here. And I think on the bottom section somewhere here, you can't really see that, but it's also, I have a 3.7. If we do where Python, it'll tell you exactly where those are. So you can see the two, these two are in the path. But when I type in Python, it immediately see Python 8, not the 7. And that's because when you look at path here, the first thing that it checks for is the last entry, which is Python 8, because I installed Python 3.7 before 8. So this is the first one it comes across is the one. It's the one you would it gets executed. So Python 3.8 is what I see here. Now for guys who like I said, if you have the 3.9, you should be fine. So let's do this. Now if you go here, you type in Python, and you go to, oh, sorry, let's do that again. Type in Python. You go to the top, you click apps, and then you go to the section here where you have the Python 3.9. Now go to that arrow here and click on that, and it should pop up with this Python 3.9 64-bit. Now if you go further down, if you go to open file location, now it's going to pop up this window. Now as you can see, you have several things here. The one we're looking for is the one that I actually highlighted already. We don't want anything, we don't want the manuals, we don't want the modules, and we don't want idle. We want what's already highlighted. Now if you right click on this and go all the way down to create a shortcut, and then if you move that, let me get rid of these. If you move this to your main window and then just rename this, right click, and let's just take out the 2. And now I guess we can click at this one. Now you have your Python. This immediately goes into the Python 9 shell. So you don't have to go the long-winded way of doing anything. You immediately get into the Python 9 shell. And then you can just try to make sure it works. 1 + 1 is 2. If you do a print hello world. Oops, excuse me. Again, excuse me. I can't see. Okay, so it's working. Control Z, that closes the window. Now, for those who have multiple versions of Python, so here's what we need to do. If you go to command line, click on command prompts. I'm not sure why it's opening multiple windows. Make this bigger. Now we need to add the 3.9 one to the path. So I already have 2 versions here, and the default is 3.8. Now if I close out this one and I want it to run 3.7, I will have to do Python 3.7, enter. And now that gives me the 3.7 version. I will have to specify the version itself because this is not the default. Now I can't do that for 9 as of yet, just because I don't have 9 in my path. So it won't recognize that as a valid command. So for us to do that, we need to go back to the search box here. And from here, you're going to just type in env, and that should bring up this edit the system environment variables. And if you click on that, and it brings up the systems properties box, and then if you go all the way down to environment variables, click on that. That should bring up another box. And then if you click on the path section under the user variables and click edit, and if you go to new, it should pop up a box at the bottom here. Now I already have my path description saved. So if I click Control A, highlights everything, and then Control C, copies, just to be on the safe side so I don't make any mistakes. Sorry, if I come back down here to new, and Control C should paste everything. Now, actually I made a mistake here. I just get rid of the python.ext and /. We don't need all that. Just make sure everything else is fine. The C is there. Just double check everything. And then from there you do OK, OK, and another OK. So now if we do a where Python, oops. Let's close this window just to make sure. Do this CMD again. Open the command prompts. Let's center this. Make it slightly bigger. Okay, now you see it. So sometimes you have to close the window and reopen that same window just so that it registers. So now you see we have three entries now for Python. I have 3 8s at the top, 3 7 in the middle, and 3 9 at the bottom. So now I can all those three are in my path. So if I need to execute any of those, let me just show you quickly. If you go into the path section again, you see that the last entry now is the 1 4 for 9. So every time I enter Python, it will always go for the first one, which is 3 8 here. So for those who want to actually be able to run any of this, 3, 7, and 8 at the same time, I'll show you what I've done just to be able to do this. So if you do Python 3.8, Python 3.8. Now to close that, do Python 3.7. If I close that and I do Python 3.9, so now I'm able to run all versions at any time. Now, to be able to do this, you have to do a couple of things. So if I go back to, if I go back to my path, where my Python is, that's the one we installed. And I just make sure I go all the way to just where, that's the exact location of the path. Now if I open a window, and I just paste that in the window, it should automatically bring up that location for me. This is where the executables are, where all the executables are. You can see I've added an extra one here, the 3.9. This wasn't there before. This is what I added. So it allows me to run the 3.9, because if I just do Python, which is the top one, it will pick up the 3.8, not the 3.9. But I just did a copy of this one, the python.exe, and just rename this Python 3.9. And because it's also in the path, it will look for 3.9 as opposed to Python exe, and then I'm able to run Python 3.9. So that's the way I kind of get around having multiple versions on my machine. But of course, you can also do the simple option of just doing this. So you can do this as well. If you just click on Python, and you go all the way to the apps section. So for each version, you look for wherever it says 3.9 64-bit, that's the actual app. So you click on the arrow here and you open the file location, and you can do exactly the same thing like we did for all versions. So you can have the 3.9, 3.8, 3.5, so that when you actually click on that, it automatically goes into that shell. So you can run multiple versions that way as well. So that's the installation done. Let me show you one more thing. I'll show quickly and just show pip. And the pip works the same for every version. So I'm just going to use the default version here. CMD, and that should bring up the command prompts again. And if you click on the command prompts, brings up the box. We'll center that, make it slightly bigger. And then if we do pip, you should see this description come up. It's a pip command. These are some of the commands. These are the options. So you should be able to see that come up. Now, if you do pip -- version, you can see it's the default version, which is Python 3.8. And if you have a fresh install, that should say Python 3.9. And quickly, just to do a quick demo, I mean, we'll look at pip again in later videos. Let's do pip install. Let's just pick install something, pillow. Oh, okay. Let's see. Okay, sometimes my machine is a little strange, so I'll have to do this as an administrator. So if I click out of this, I'm going to come back here. I'm going to do CMD again, but this time I'm going to come down to run as administrator. Click run as administrator. I click yes. And then I'm going to make this slightly bigger. If I do pip again, same thing, pip -- version, still 3.8. And if I do pip install pillow. Now that's done. So mine is just a little funky. I needed to run this as an administrator, and it ran fine after that. So that's pip, and like I said, we'll look at pip again later. But this is mainly just to show you guys how to do a Windows install on Windows. A Python install on Windows, and just how to go through different versions, and also how to use a path to do, to make a couple of things function properly. So if you've enjoyed the video, go ahead and like the video, subscribe, comment, and just kind of like let me know what you think. But this is the end of this session, and we'll do we'd probably do idle in the next session, and do some more pip installs in the next session. I hope you guys have enjoyed this session, and I'll see you guys soon.